We do have some breaking news now. We have just learned that the case against Alec Baldwin has been dismissed. Let's just go right away to ABC News' Jacqueline Lee, who's live outside the courthouse there in Santa Fe, along with our ABC News legal contributor and trial attorney Brian Bruckmeyer. Jacqueline, tell us about this really stunning development at court there today.
That's right, Elizabeth. This has been a day full of twists and turns, but ultimately just a few minutes ago, the judge decided to dismiss the case with prejudice, saying the state withheld evidence. Now, all of this centered around this box of ammunition, and I do actually, just to add some color to this, the second the judge ruled that this case was dismissed, you saw Alec Baldwin burst into tears. He started hugging his defense team. His wife behind him was sobbing. They started hugging, so you can only imagine the amount of relief that he is feeling. Now, again, this all centered around a box of ammunition that was turned in to law enforcement after the film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Now, what happened was when that box of ammunition was turned in, it was not filed with the rest of the evidence from Rust. So before trial, when the defense demanded every single piece of evidence be turned over so they themselves could do their own investigation, the state did not turn over that ammunition. The state's argument was that this ammunition was not relevant to the case. They say it came from a man who was friends with Gutierrez's father, so he had ulterior motives. And also they say that the ammunition did not even match from the set of Rust. Now, after the judge dismissed the jury for the day, we heard from multiple witnesses. We heard from testimony from the prop firearms supplier, from the main investigator, and the special investigator herself. She called herself as a witness to the stand to try to make her case as to why she did not turn over that ammunition. And then during that testimony, it comes out that the other prosecutor, Erlinda Johnson, resigned today during a break because she did not believe this motions hearing should have been public. So, Elizabeth, I mean, just every twist and turn today from this case.
Yeah, really surprising change of events here. And Brian, you predicted this just on our air in the last hour. Talk about exactly why we got this dismissal. What was the revelation that kind of led to this turn of events?
So it all just devolved. And at first I was talking to Keira Phillips and even Phil Lipoff and just saying, hey, this seems bad, but maybe just a slap on the wrist. But as it continued, it was like a train wreck that just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Even with the special prosecutor taking the stand and believing she could talk her way out of it, she admitted that this was Brady. She admitted that she knew about the reports. And even in the first trial, that of Hannah Gutierrez, that certain issues didn't come up and that should have alerted her. But this dismissal, and let me be very clear, a dismissal with prejudice means that the prosecution can't bring back this case. It's done. It's over. Alec Baldwin is the equivalent of not guilty, as if the jury had decided the prosecution hasn't proved their case. The violation of discovery and the violation of Alec Baldwin's constitutional rights were so bad, the prosecution fumbled the ball so bad that the judge thought that the only remedy was to throw out the case. Partially and mostly, I would say, actually, because the evidence as to the bullet, the investigation, and even when the judge looked at the picture, said, yeah, this doesn't look like any other live round, but this looks like some of the dummy rounds that were found on the set. And that, I think, was a major component, but also the fact that the prosecution just didn't turn this over. This is information that should be turned over. And I think that's why we led here, that's how we got here, sorry, to this dismissal.
Wow. And we're looking on our screen there. There is video of Alec Baldwin emotional in court, as Jacqueline described, hearing this news, sobbing, breaking into tears, and then hugging his legal team as he hears that this case will be dismissed with prejudice. And as Brian, you point out, that means that it will not be tried again. So does this mean that Alec Baldwin is basically in the clear, that he cannot face additional charges, Brian?
I wouldn't even say basically. He's in the clear. Dismissal with prejudice is almost the same, if not exactly the same, as if a jury of his peers said not guilty. It's done. The prosecution can't do anything about this. If there's any current or future prosecutors, this is a great example of what not to do when handling a case. Turn over evidence. Whether or not you think it is relevant, turn it over, because that's not the standard in this country. And clearly the judge agreed.
Wow. And Jacqueline, we had been deep into this trial at this point. Get us to how we got here today. How did this news of this evidence that was withheld come out? How was this revealed?
So, that's the interesting part about this, is because you have to remember, Hannah Gutierrez had her trial before this, and that's basically the blueprint that Baldwin's attorneys were able to watch. Now, this is actually what the prosecutors were arguing earlier today, is they were saying that they argued the defense knew about this, the box of ammunition the whole time because it was in a piece of discovery, but the argument at hand was that the ammunition was not physically handed over. So, to be honest, that was actually some of the questions that were asked today. It was, well, did you hear it from Hannah Gutierrez's attorney? Like, how exactly did you know about this anyway? Which is why the state was trying to argue you had this piece of information since last year. This is not new. But I think regardless, this really kind of points to the fact that you have to look at Baldwin's team. They were trying to poke as many holes as possible into this investigation. We saw this when they cross-examined the crime scene tech, Marissa Popple, and they pointed out things like, you didn't examine every single piece of ammunition on that set. Is it possible that live rounds, that there could have been more than 6 live rounds that you discovered? And she said yes. And so ultimately what the defense was trying to do was point the blame at the gun safety person, the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of commotion behind me. At any moment, we are expecting Alec Baldwin and his team to come out. It is entirely possible there could be a press conference, but we're not sure just yet, Elizabeth.
And we know, Jacqueline, you will keep us posted. We will be sure to come back to you with any of those developments. Brian, Jacqueline, thank you. Again, breaking news here. Alec Baldwin's trial has been dismissed with prejudice. This was his trial where he was facing involuntary manslaughter charges over the shooting on the set of the movie Rust. We will bring you any other developments in this breaking story as we get them.